Okay, we're going to start by importing in the survey is the number one thing that I start with, then the property picture. So I always have this window open in another screen right next to you so you can keep an eye on everything. Okay, what you do is you click on background here, and then mine is in my Dropbox. I strongly recommend that you have a external hard drive for your computer so it's easy to access. Downloading stuff is a humongous waste of time, and I can't express that enough. Let's see here. So start by the survey. I turn off my grid, and what we want to do is find the longest line in order to scale this. The longer the line, the less likely that it is to be off, or the greater room for error there. So let's see here. Click on here and click on your thing, scale the image here. What I'm going to do is find the middle, so we're kind of looking right through here, and the center of this property line here. And we see this is 135 feet. Exactly. We want to get as close to the center as possible with this here. Do not take this on a whim. If you get the base plan wrong, it could be massively impactful to Archer Services. Let's see here. So I like to invert my color because I have a blue background. That is totally up to you what color you use on your screens. And then what I want to do is make sure that the house is square to the grid. I do everything on a grid because it makes it easier for drafting. And so let's see here. So this line here is pretty close to the middle of the house, and then it's in the middle, pretty close to the middle of the house there. Now, because we're doing the entire property, I don't really care whether you pick the front or the back, but essentially, when you zoom out, this big X is the center of the drawing. And so what we want to do is make sure that the picture is imported to where when you're going into 3D, you usually should be close to the center of it, so then that way you can just go quickly to your thing. And then let's go ahead and put the house on a actual grid. And I never use the 8-foot grids, but let's go ahead and line it up on one of these grids here. Okay, it's in the middle of the line here, and here it's in the middle of the line. Okay, so first we want to start with, we're going to draw a basic outline of the house. You need to do this in custom feature. Okay, and you want to pick kind of a point in the house, the drawing. So the line itself, this line for the house here, you see it's 7-8 inches wide on our thing when we zoom in here. That's why I hate big fat lines. But we want to use a combination of the actual measurements and the lines themselves. So nowadays surveys are usually very, very accurate. If you get an old survey, there's a good chance that the survey could be off some, so please take it with a grain of salt. These numbers should be what you go by. But it's to say that one thing fits all is very difficult to say. So you really have to use your educated, your best judgment on everything. So let's see here. So that is 14.2. What we want to do is make sure that 14.2, my guess is that it goes all the way to here. 14.2 should be, so 0.2. If you look up 0.2, if you want to figure out what a decimal is, 0.2 times 12. It's 12 inches in a foot. And so if you do the decimal there, that should equal 2.4. So we're roughly at 2.5, 2 and a third inches, 2.4 inches. So we are just a little bit, so we pretty much want to hit the middle of the of this line in order to make sure that we are being as accurate as possible. That's according to this grid here. Let's take a look at here. So this way, 56.7, that is almost 9 inches. 56 and then let's just do 9, and then this one should be 23 feet. 8.8 is 8 feet. It's almost 10 inches. 16.9 is 16 feet, and we're basically right at 11. And we come down here at, let's see here, 64.7, that's almost 9 inches. 64, there we go. 20.9. So yeah, 9 is basically, it's 10, 11 inches somewhere in there. So, but we are, and then 3.7, my guess is it's that distance there. So what we do is just kind of end up to where we are square with the front of the house there. Okay, the survey, or the custom feature, you need to set this at 2 feet in height. You do not want it to auto elevate. You want it set at 0. Actually, you want it set at -2. And the reason for that is that essentially now this is your 0, 0 on your plans. And so when we start putting elevations, you will start to see the actual foundation of the house. You see the foundation? It's underground. If the house were totally at 0, 0, that house would be underground. I make it 2 feet. If your foundation is exposed like 5 or 6 feet, then you're going to need a 6, 7, 8 foot foundation. You need to make sure your foundation is bigger than your slopes. You can always go back and adjust it, but that's a good starting point there. Okay, next we go to the house. I basically, what I like to do is draw one story on the house at a time. And so this house that we are drawing, that we're going to be creating a house.
The 7th.
And so what we're doing is we're just going to create one story at a time. You can kind of see different, looks like, see, the back is one story through here, and then it jumps up to 2 stories up there. So it's a little bit taller than 1 story. This roof here is taller than this roof. So let's go ahead and click on the house here, and we want to turn off let me just hide my custom feature here. Roof line, there we go, 0. And we can delete this measurement here. Okay, so we did that. We got our house in here. Now what we want to do is let's go ahead and add in our little hardscape. So these are the decks, the patios. So they start at the edge. Now it may not go all the way to the edge of the foundation. We'll just kind of draw it as per the drawing here. We want to make sure it's flush with a 0 lip height. So if you start off with that, then all of your concrete areas will be that way as well too. This whole front little stoop area is concrete as well. And let's just make this go out to the edge there. Okay, the next thing that we want to get in is the, let's go ahead and get our arrow, our north arrow correct. What I like to do is I have my north arrow. Okay, now what we're going to be lining it up with is, you see from here to here is the straight line, and this is the north arrow. So we're going to take this here. We can actually turn this off now that I did that. And we want to make sure this is pretty darn accurate. Okay, there we go. So then I take this now and I blow it up really large. It just makes it easier to adjust my north arrow. And so I get it here. Maybe come up. So here, and then there it's down a little bit. That is pretty darn close there. So now we can shrink our north arrow back down to the way it's supposed to be. I usually just stick it in the house there. There, that's done. Okay, so you've got the north arrow in. This is very important for designers to make sure this is in. Where you stick it, I'm okay with. Well, what I like to do is stick it to where when I print the drawing at the end, the north arrow is somewhere in a normal sheet of paper. So normally we're going to print the paper pretty close to the size of the property. So if you have a weird like triangular shaped property, there could be little gaps you could stick it outside, but since this one is pretty rectangular, there's not going to be very many great places, so you can just stick it inside the house. What we have to do is just make sure that when we go to print mode that is the highest, that we raise that layer up. Okay, the next thing I like to do is stick in the property line. This here you do want to be pretty darn accurate on. So everything you want to be very accurate on. Now, when you have a straight property line, we might as well stick it on the grid. So let's make sure that we start it on the grid. It looks like right through here. Right through here. Our property line is 62.15, so that's 62 feet. That is right at 2 inches long. 1.16 is 2 inches. Now, what we want to do here, because this is at a weird angle, we hit K in order to be able to move the line wherever we want to. And what we want to do is find the closest to the center as much as possible. If you're unsure, you can always do a circle and get that circle and then now we can go back to property line here. Okay, and then we can then, if you notice here, I'm doing these weird angles first. I'm not going all the way around. I'm trying to get these weird angles. Line this up here to be, let's grab, okay, now what we can do is we want to find this street radius here. It's a little bit tricky to do sometimes. You can try to do it here, and they tell you what the radius is. 655 feet is what that radius is supposed to be. We can delete our little helper lines here. Now, this is not the correct property line. This is not the one that I want you to draw. Now what we want to do is actually import the background picture. And the reason for that is see, it's showing you the property line, which is way up here. They actually own quite a bit more space. So we have to make sure that we put that in there. I do not want you leaving the property line that's in the middle of the yard. So let's go up to property pic and let's scale it. I always when I do my Go Island picture, I run my arrows north-south and I put the number there on the northern side. That way I know what direction is north-south. 71.91. We want to zoom in here real close. 71.91 is really going to be like 11 inches. So let's see here. And now we want to adjust this. Okay. We are pretty close here. Look at that. So the driveway, so the flat of the surface, like concrete, because it's very short, it's on the ground. Okay. I just had a phone call there. So anyway, we are back at it. So you see the property line here on the back fence and where it's at. Now remember, the fence is 6 foot tall. And so you can see the base of the fence over here on this side, but over here, the top, so you see where the top is versus the bottom. There's a difference here. It's because the airplane, when it's flying over to take these pictures, it's never directly on top. And even if it is directly over the house, it's not directly over this fence. And so it's going to skew the taller the object, the more it's going to skew it. So like trees here, I don't know if you can see or not, but the top of the tree is over here. The actual base of the tree is more like right here. So a 2-story house is going to skew that. So be careful where you have everything and what you're drawing. So the best thing to go off of are the flatter the object. So the driveway is a very good thing, and any other things like pools, stuff like that are easy to go off of. So the house here, it might be off a little bit because it looks like we can kind of see the base. So this is the roof, and directly down below is, I think this is about where the foundation is somewhere about in this line. So I might need to move this property picture just a little bit to the right here. That way we're a little bit closer. And I think we're kind of about where we need to be. Okay, so now if you notice here, the street line is way out here. And what we're trying to find is is where the curb is. Okay, so now what I want to do is take this, divide it, and delete. Now what I want to do is join up with this here, hit L to make sure you're following the same trajectory. Let's figure out why this, come on. Let's just start with this. Okay, hit L, same trajectory here. Sorry, another phone call. Okay, we did that other side. Now let's go ahead and do this side as well too. Pool Studio does not like to be super accurate, so it does these weird. Come on, this is not a big file. I don't understand what you're doing. Okay, now we finally have the proper plan for the. I understand why it's all weird like that, but what we're going to do here now is draw the curb. And these are the lower narrow curbs. And Pool Studio used to have what was called a half round, but they took that out, and I don't know why. It was a nice feature. So those curbs are approximately 4 inches tall. And then, and we want to set that to follow the terrain. And then we want to do the street. Okay, and this one we want to follow the terrain but 4 inches below the street there. Okay, what we can do next, so now we have the basic stuff set up here. I usually like to go ahead and put in the sidewalks. So follow sidewalk, so it looks like they're usually about 5 feet. Yeah. And these sidewalks are always 4 feet in width. Okay, and then we can go ahead and put in the driveway.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's see here. So the driveway is usually, whoops, Control Z, escape. What we can do is kind of measure the driveway here. Yeah, the driveway's probably right at 17-ish feet. You usually want the driveways to be fairly symmetrical on each side here. So 4.5 radius 4.5, okay, to, and then G to okay. Come on. Pool Studio, you're fucking driving me nuts. Sometimes Pool Studio can be a total tool. It just really sucks. Like, this is not even a big file and it is being completely retarded. Again, I like clean lines. Okay. Let's go with the top one. It seems to be a little... Don't even know why I did that. Sorry. Pool Studio is being absolutely ridiculous. I'm telling you, it just doesn't like to be accurate. It just wants to be... Okay, so while we have this open, we might as well go ahead and stick in the generator, which I recommend having these types of things already built, ready to go. Could be a bigger pad, but at least we know I don't know what that is. I do know that they also have a little lean-to thing that he built. And I don't know exactly how. I'll have to look at the video a little bit later, but essentially this is that lean-to. So right now we're just kind of putting some things in so we know delineation where stuff is at. The other thing that we can do while we have this, oh, we do have a manhole right here. So that manhole is important just because of the fact that I can't run a drain line very well right through there. So it's good to delineate where that type of stuff is, and if there's any other things. Sometimes it's best to turn off the grid. It looks like that's a water meter right there. So the other thing too that I recommend importing is getting my, if you don't have this one, this master template here of different things. This is what I like to use. It's got the corrected in different utility boxes, things like that on there. So we do have ungroup all this stuff here. And show a symbol, auto elevate. And then we can go ahead and put that there. We have also this tree, exactly where that's at. And it never hurts to go ahead and put in the beds. Now they do have a concrete walkway. .410. So most of these walkways are going to be right at 4 feet. So we'll come in here. 1, 2, 3. And we can do it one of two ways. One, we can do it kind of make it square, and then we can smooth this over to match. And we can look at the 3D a little bit later just to kind of verify And yeah, there's a little bed over here as well too. We'll look in the video here a little bit later. We see where the fence is at. It looks like the fence is more square with the property line. Now the wood fence, the side fences are different than the front and or the very back fence. The back fence is a wall. So we want to delineate that separately from the other fences. But the big thing is right now what I'm doing is just getting everything in that I see with this 3D here. Okay, while we have this open too, we can go ahead and actually put in the second story on the house since we have this open here. Okay, now I can pretty well guarantee you that the second story, it's because of the overhang. We'll take a look at it in the video, but essentially we're really close right here to what everything is. So, oh, and it looks like we have utility box right there. Now, if you see big trees or anything like that, that's great to show in the neighborhood. We could potentially show a road back there if we want to and all that stuff, and even show where these trees are at, because it might affect long-term what you're doing with the neighborhood, with the landscape. And say if the neighbor had a basketball goal right here and he was concerned about it, then you might even go ahead and throw in where the basketball goal hoop is. If it's a zero lot line, I'll usually do this in the 3D and I'll go ahead and put in the house and all that stuff. So I'm gonna pause this, we'll start level 2, but essentially all of this is just kind of the prepping of the base plan. So we have a good start, we have kind of a 2D outline. This is about the level that I would like to see sent to Michael. He doesn't need the second story of the house, but about the level of the detail that should be sent with Michael during his first meetings, and he can always correct stuff. So, yep.